Let's talk about composition. If you ever watched a video and were blown away by how visually powerful or cinematic a frame looked, you've experienced the power of composition and what it can do to your videos. In simple terms, composition is just a fancy term for what elements are in your frame and where they are located relative to each other. It's a simple concept, but one has to be mastered if you are to guide your viewers' attention to what you want them to focus on in a frame and create an immersive storytelling experience through your videos. So in this video, we'll take you through 4 essential tips that you can follow to ensure you have a cinematic composition. The best part is that you can apply these to any camera equipment you have. Sounds useful? Let's jump right in. Let's start with the first tip, the rule of thirds. The rule of thirds is a thumb rule that gets used while composing any form of visual imagery, such as designs, photographs, films, and of course, videos. The basic idea is that when you place an imaginary 3x3 grid over your video, you can make your subject stand out and make your frame look more dynamic by placing the subject of your video on any of the 4 intersection points. This is because when the subject is off center, it allows for you to capture and showcase the intersection between the subject and the background in a much more effective way. For example, take this shot from Skyfall. Here we can see Daniel Craig framed on the left side of the intersecting line, giving the scene a much more cinematic look as your eye naturally first captures him in the frame and then takes in the landscape and gives you a perspective of what he could be looking at and feeling. But if he was centered in the middle of the frame instead of the intersection points, the scene wouldn't be as impactful and the frame would look imbalanced. Now, you must have noticed that this video itself does not follow the rule of thirds as I'm in the center of the frame. But still, the frame looks super balanced. This is because the center of the frame is reserved for subjects who are directly talking to the camera or teaching them something, like I'm doing now. In fact, whenever you have 2 or more people in your frame, you can either group them together and place both of them at one of these intersection points or place them on 2 separate lines on the grid. Applying the rule of thirds to your video when you're shooting your footage is very easy. Most cell phones and DSLRs come with a rule of third grid layout, which can be switched on via settings so that when you're shooting your footage, you can frame your subject to align to the rule of third right from the beginning. However, in the event you forgot to do this and shot all your clips with the subject dead in the center, you can fix this to an extent on the edit table. Simply hop over to invideo.io and open a blank canvas. Then upload your clip and add it to the main canvas. Use the crop function to crop your frame in a way that your subject aligns with one of the vertical lines instead of the center. Next up on our list is leading lines. Leading lines refer to the lines that lead the viewer's eye from one part of the composition to another. Usually, these lines start at the bottom of the frame and lead the eye upward from the foreground of the image to the background. Think about them as subconscious arrows that guide your viewer's eye to the main subject of your video. For example, check out this scene from Nightcrawler. Notice how the white lines on the road subconsciously guides you to notice the main element of the scene, the accident. Or this scene from Inglourious Basterds, where Tarantino uses leading lines to showcase the impending doom our characters weigh. Leading lines can be created using all kinds of elements in your surroundings, like stairs, street lights, or even walls. And you can leverage them in your shots to guide your audience's eye to what you want them to pay the most amount of attention to. So for instance, if you're a small business owner and you want to showcase your products, a shot like this will do wonders for your Instagram page. Okay, before we move on to the next step, I know this can be a lot to process, so we'd love for you to drop in any questions you have regarding any of the tips that we cover in this video, and we promise to answer each and every one of them in the comments below. And if you're deriving value from this video, do hit the like button. Okay, tip number 3 on our list is to create symmetry wherever you can. As humans, we are naturally drawn to order and symmetry. A perfectly symmetrical and balanced shot looks very appealing and cinematic, and there's nothing better than a Wes Anderson movie to illustrate this. Every shot and frame is so perfectly balanced that it's hard to take your eye off of how satisfying the videos can be. Normally, symmetry goes against the rule of thirds we discussed earlier. But if you have the scope to create symmetry in your frame, it can be extremely satisfying for your audience to watch. For example, let's say you're a real estate agent and are trying to showcase the properties you're trying to sell. Well-planned symmetrical shots can do wonders for how beautiful your videos would look. Same is the case if you're trying to showcase different items at your restaurant with a still image, or showcasing your product with a video. This brings us to our last and one of the most important elements of cinematic compositions: depth of field. In a nutshell, it's the distance from the nearest object in focus to the farthest object in focus within your frame. A deep focus is when both the subject and the background are shown with equal detailing, like this scene from Django Unchained, or this scene from Guardians of the Galaxy. On the other hand, a narrow or shallow depth of field will only show a portion of the frame, usually with the main subject of your video in focus, while blurring out the rest, like this scene from Paul Thomas Anderson's The Master. Using deep focus in your frame can help you showcase the context of your video and bring out the relationship between your subject and the surroundings. That's why you see deep focus being used by your favorite vloggers in their opening clips or shots where they want to show themselves or the amazing places they visit. On the other hand, a shallow depth of field can help you create a certain sense of isolation for your subject from the background, giving it a more cinematic look. That's why most of the tutorial videos you see on YouTube use shallow depth of field to create more focus on the subject. In this case, me talking to you and creating a bokeh blurry effect in the background. And that's a roundup of 4 tips that you can apply to your videos and instantly improve the composition of your frames and make them look more cinematic. If you want such video creation tips, make sure you hit the subscribe button and check out this playlist where we cover other video fundamentals such as B-rolls, cuts, transitions, and a lot more. This is Christine from InVideo, and I will see you in the next one.